Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
I assume Tom.
I met this man during year 2 of the LA Comic Con. He is now the CEO and frontrunner of this. Chris DeMoulin, how are you today?
I'm awesome, RC. How are you?
Listen, it is always great to catch up with you. It's always fun. LA Comic Con is right around the corner. We're getting ready to have such a great time. Only, roughly a month away, which doesn't feel that long, but it's gonna come up even faster than we expected. Take us through what's going on this year. I mean, we got a bunch of celebrity signings. We got artists, Artist Alley, cosplayers, panels coming up, updated app.
You've been to the show you've been coming to the show for a long time, and really since COVID, the show is two pieces, right? There's the South Hall of the Convention Center, which is sort of your traditional, Comic-Con with an LA twist, and the West Hall has been really all about anime and video games, and we're doing some really fun new things with anime there. So, for the people that have never been before, we're really a Comic-Con that's all about LA, right? It's a very eclectic mix of all sorts of different things, from big movies and TV show casts to celebrations of animated shows that are from 30 years ago, and everything in between in the main hall. And one of the big differences about our show versus others is we put our main stage right in the middle of the hall. So everybody who comes gets to see all the best stuff. There's no leaving and waiting in line and whatever to do that. We just feel like if the fans are choosing to spend a day with us, they should get to see all the best stuff. And then and so you'll see guests this year, like Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, famous from Avengers and WandaVision. You'll see the cast of Daredevil with Charlie Cox and all of his cohorts.
Including the original Thor with Vincent D'Onofrio. For those of us of a certain age, know that he's the original Thor.
Exactly. Not to mention the bug from Men in Black, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, so and then having David Tennant, Billy Piper from Doctor Who. So we try to have some of that marquee stuff, but then you've also got your Phineas and Ferb cast and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's sort of the con side in the South Hall. And then the West Hall, we're launching something this year that we call Akiba Station, which is really a very authentic Japanese anime experience. We partner with a company called Otaku Collectibles, and they're bringing in Japanese voice actors who've never been in the United States before, really authentic Japanese vendors and exhibitors. And we hope that for the people that go to the West Hall, you'll really notice the difference in terms of the look, the tone, the feel. And then behind that is the video game stage, which is going to have video game programming all weekend as well. And so, yeah, it's, a splendid time is guaranteed for all, as they say.
And there was a pre-launch party with Tiffany Haddish, a comedy night over, I think it was at the Laugh Factory in LA. We're
actually doing that tonight. We've been trying to partner, because we love LA, we try to partner with other things in LA that the fans like to go to. So we've done a couple of what we call Nerd Night Out at Dave & Buster's and sponsored contests and trivia and stuff at Dave & Buster's stores. We're going to be at the Laugh Factory tonight with Tiffany Haddish and a bunch of other people. And it's really just sort of our attempt to reach out to the LA community and bring a little bit of Comic-Con to them and remind them that Comic-Con's coming up and sort of remind all of us that we all love some of the same stuff, and so we gotta pull together.
And then we can't forget about the comic creators. A buddy of mine, Tim Sheridan's going to be there. Lonnie Millsap, Tom Hodges, Mark Guggenheim, Zen, Kevin. Kevin's. Sorry, I always butcher Kevin's last name when it comes to pronounce it. Gervio.
I'm going with Gervio. If it's Gervio for you, it's Gervio for me, baby.
My French is so bad at this point. Sorry, Kevin. But I know Kevin. We've run into each other a few times. I can just still never pronounce his last name properly.
Well, look, and that's where we came from, right? The comic creators are why we're all here. They were what got this movement started 50, 60 years ago. And so, yeah, we always try to have a terrific lineup of the comic creators and, paired with what's usually the largest artist alley at any fan convention in the U.S. I think this year we have over 600 artists And we love that because many of them, it's the first time they've been able to get out in public and show fans their work and be seen and be collected for the first time. And I think that's part of what we always try to make this show be is a sort of it's a gathering place for all of us who have a nerd bent to our tastes in terms of our entertainment, and give creators a chance to come out and show things for the first time, and give all of us a chance to come and sort of get together with like-minded fans and experience the things that we love.
Absolutely. And again, you know, this is very LA, very Southern California. Matthew Lillard, Southern California native. You know, David Arquette, Southern California native. So we got a couple of local boys coming to town.
Exactly. No, we're very excited to have the Scream team coming this year. I don't think we've ever had them all together before. And it's one of those fun things that when you start, you pull in a guest from a show, and then they say, okay, well, if I'm coming, you got to get so-and-so, and you got to get so-and-so. And that happened with the Daredevil cast of adding people. It happened with the Scream cast adding people. It's always great. You know, a couple of years ago when we had all 4 of the Hobbit actors from The Lord of the Rings, it's fun to see how much they love getting together, right? That they developed real friendships creating these properties, creating the movies or the TV shows that they're part of, and seeing how much fun they have when they come together. For me as a fan is part of the fun of it, is seeing how much they enjoy each other's company.
You know, we don't always get to see you walking the floor because you're behind the scenes putting out fires that get started that nobody's even thought would ignite.
Fires, RC, I don't know what you're talking about. We've never had a fire. Everything always works seamlessly.
Oh, absolutely. There's not one thing, there's not one stitch out of place.
Exactly. Yeah. Only the one with Lilo, because you never know where he's going to be.
But that's how precise the team is that you guys put out the fires before we even see them get started. They never get to inferno level.
You know, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate. We have a wonderful team that works on the show all year long. And at this point, there's the 30 or 40 people that come in to run the different segments of the show when we're on site. It's been the same team of people for 5 or 6 years. And so we all know each other, and we all have a pretty good way of working together. And look, stuff in anytime you get 125,000 of your closest friends together in one place over 3 days, some stuff's going to not work exactly the way you thought. I think the key thing is to not let that, you know, that you can't let it bother you. You just have to roll with it and fix things. And, you know, hopefully it's not the internet going down in the whole building or the electrical getting turned off or somebody, you know, something more serious of a medical nature. But what we have found over the years is that our fans are, the fans come with the mindset of wanting to experience what's there. They try not to sweat the details. We try to work real hard to make sure they don't have to stand in lines they don't need to stand in, and they can just spend their time experiencing what they want to experience. But yeah, if something really bad goes wrong, we're going to try and make sure nobody ever sees it.
And we do have to remind everybody, September 26th through the 28th are the dates. And although that is the beginning of fall, that's still an Indian summer in Southern California. So please stay hydrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the big thing, is hydration. You know, take care, have fun, take your photos. Please don't block the aisleways to cause a fire hazard. But other than that, enjoy yourselves.
Well, one thing I will say about nerds is they're really good at standing in line. And you know, for me personally, I think it's because in my everyday life, a lot of the places I stand in line, you know, you're not necessarily surrounded by like-minded people. The nice thing about waiting in line at a con is that you can, you know, swap trivia, swap stories, swap what you love with the people around you, because we're all there for the same reason. And I think that's why, you know, we always try to have a very fan-centric approach to how we build the show, how we add attractions, how we add guests, and each of us has our own, you know, particular fandom that we're part of. So we try to keep it real and keep it very much about the fans.
So I'm gonna throw this out there. This is just me riffing. When we get to the 15th anniversary, are we gonna have like romance story time, like where we gather, you know, past guests that sit there and go, I met my spouse at LA Comic Con. Oh, we had our nuptials, you know, at the hotel at LA Comic Con, or something of that sort, like where we just have fans share the stories? We
should totally do that. And I think maybe we could do set an hour aside on the main stage, and anybody that wants to get married at the 15th anniversary, you know, we can just have wedding ceremonies up there and work through them. It is fun. One of the things this year, because the convention center is about to embark on some construction, so we've had to move things around a little bit. we're actually going to put some stuff back down in Kentia Hall, which is downstairs under the South Hall, which is where the show started in 2011. In 2011, the entire show was in Kentia Hall. So in a way, it feels like a homecoming for us. That was the show that Stan Lee came to and that Cassandra Peterson came to as Elvira, fell in love with the show, and it was really their involvement in the early years is one of the things that helped the show grow and develop a following.
You know, it's one of those things where who would have thought a show that started in the basement would take over the entire convention center within 2 years?
Well, I don't know. You've seen a lot of horror movies, and you know there's always stuff down in the basement that you got to keep your eye on.
This is true, you know, but we're going to have fun, and we're going to make sure that nothing gets a little too rowdy coming towards Halloween season.
It will be appropriately rowdy.
Yeah, that's all we can hope for. You know, rowdy within limits.
Exactly.
Are there any surprises that you can hint at for us this year? Because, you know, this is year 14. We're inching up to yet another milestone, next year being 15. You know, how are things like turning out that we're going to have, you know, maybe there's going to be a little bit of this, a little bit of that we should keep our eye out for?
I think there's one thing we're going to try and sneak in at the last minute, which is a surprise guest coming, somebody that we haven't seen in a while. So I will give you a heads up when we get close to that, because if we in fact pull that off, I think people will be delighted and surprised. Other than that, you know, one of the things for me that keeps the show fresh is, you know, we try to bring in new vendors and new artists every single year. To me, the thing about this kind of a convention, which is really more fan-centric, I mean, I love San Diego, most of us do, but it's a very different experience. I mean, San Diego is all about the studios. It's all about the bling. You know, and for me, this is more about the fan that's trying to find an action figure or an artist or something new. And so discovery and exploration are, I think, a huge part of the show. So I always encourage people, make sure you walk and get to every corner, because there's stuff there that you've never seen before. And yes, we're always going to try and make sure the guests on the main stage and the guests on the gaming stage and all of that stuff is fun. I think we've got a partner coming in this year that's going to set up a dozen old arcade games so people can go do a little bit of that. But I think it's the experiences the fans to make. You know, I think that's why every year 30 or 35% of the people who come to our show have never been to a con before, because they look at the combination of things that are there. They look at what they love, they look at what their kids love, and they think this would really be a fun way to spend 5 or 6 hours on my Saturday or Sunday.
You know, what keeps LA Comic-Con fresh is that you keep adding and changing things. Like, you know, now there's the gaming corner. Now there's the other hall that's more anime based. You know, it's a little bit of something for everybody, and people can kind of venture along and check things out. I often joke, I use the same analogy for comics and manga fans the way that I do for pro wrestling and MMA fans. Like, usually manga fans can be comic fans, but comic fans don't like manga. And then with pro wrestling fans can be MMA fans, but most MMA fans aren't pro wrestling fans. You know?
Right.
And you've kind of done the manga fan allowed to be a comic fan thing, because all worlds have collided at this point.
That's what we try. Look, that's what Los Angeles is, right? It is there are more different kinds of creators in this city across comics and gaming and movies and art than in any other city in the world, arguably. And so we try to make sure that mashup is present at our show. And I mean, one of the things you'll see in terms of not completely brand new, but presented in a fresh way, is we had a little thing in the back of the West Hall last year. We had a thing called the Carnival of Souls. And it was a sort of a horror activation, a maze. And we knew people would like it. We didn't expect to have 600 people waiting in line to go through it from the time we opened to the time we closed. So we're actually moving that into a larger hall and giving it an entire 35 or 40,000 square foot space and expanding that. And I think, to me, that's a good example of what LA Comic-Con is we did a little horror activation. People loved it. So we're giving it more space. We're letting it breathe. We're bringing in more activations. And that's why, in a very real way, the fans create the show experience for themselves by telling us every year what they liked, what they would love to see next year. That becomes the marching orders for us to go find guests and activations for the following year. So you want Horror LA, you got it. The Carnival of Souls is about 3 times the size of what it was last year. And we're bringing in a bunch more vendors to sell Halloween creepy, spooky stuff. So hopefully you enjoy it.
Well, I will tell you one of my all-time favorite activations, because I will never be able to do this again in my life, is when you brought the stage for what's it called? The Price is Right, and I got to spin the wheel because I know I will never get on stage at The Price is Right and spin the wheel.
Exactly. Well, we love to do stuff like that, and sometimes it works great, and sometimes, like in 2012, when we did a zombie apocalypse with the same people that do like the mud runs down in San Diego, turned out the people that came to our show didn't really want a half hour, high stress workout, fighting their way through an obstacle course against zombies. So live and learn, I say, but we'll try anything once.
Well, wasn't 2012 still in the springtime, so we were heading towards the summer, so it was still a little warm at that point?
It was probably too warm to try doing something where you had to like climb over 30-foot obstacles and fight zombies. Yeah.
Well, it's, as you can tell, it's always been a good time, and we've always had fun coming, and like tonight with Tiffany Haddish, a comedy show that's leading into everything, celebrity cast members, we have our comic creators. What's especially nice about LA Comic Con, especially with Artist Alley, is that, again, we all love San Diego, but it's kind of pushed Artist Alley into this corner where it's Comic Con and they're the comic people, but here's everything else going on. There's still a substantial amount of space for creative arts that's going on in LA.
Absolutely. And again, I would never speak ill of San Diego because they're the OG, and we're all here because they did such a great job. But what I do love about fan conventions is that they're different in different places. So ours is it's a very different experience from what you experienced down in San Diego. And we always try to have that, especially dedicate lots of space for artists, for new artists, to make the artist table. It's not very expensive to be there. So they're very, and even people who can't afford it will apply and say they'd like to come anyway. And we typically give away 100 to 150 tables every year for people that are legitimately starting out so much that $300 or $400 is too much to spend. We're also doing the same thing on the gaming side. We work over there with a group called The Mix, and they bring in independent gamers who are really developers whose games aren't in the marketplace yet, but they've got playable levels. And so they almost are to the video game space what some of Artist Alley is on the art space. They're up and coming game developers who are starting out that want to be able to let the fans see what they're working on and get feedback on that to help develop the rest of the game. And so, as I say, that aspect of exploration and discovery is very important to us, and always making sure that there's a place for young artists, young in heart artists starting out to be able to get their work in front of the public.
All right, Chris, so I'm going to tease you a little bit about this. You are a fan cosplaying as a CEO. What is a big find for you that, since you've been here since 2012, year two, what has been like a big find for you, whether it was a childhood toy that you were able to find at one of these booths, some sort of poster, a new trinket that you're like, oh, I would have never thought this would be out there and just had to have. What's been something that like you've gravitated towards, like, this is my big get?
Well, when Stan Lee was with us, there were a couple of things that were associated with Stan that were important to me. And one of the things I did have the opportunity to do is get an Avengers #1 that I had signed by Stan. And that was for me, really personally meaningful experience. But in the same way as a Lord of the Rings nerd, just being able to see the, Elijah and Sean and Dom and Billy, who played the Hobbits at the show, and get a picture with them. That picture, it is a permanent memory of that experience. And I think cons are like that a lot. Sometimes it's a physical thing. It's an action figure. It's a comic. It's something that you loved. And sometimes it's just capturing a moment as a memory that speaks to something that is important for you. The thing I haven't found yet that sort of goes to what was my favorite cartoon as a kid, I haven't found the quintessential Johnny Quest item yet. But I would someday love to have Tim Matheson come to the show, because not everybody knows Tim, as a child actor, was the voice of Johnny Quest in the original cartoons.
I had no idea that Tim was the original Johnny Quest.
You go look at his all his credits. Yes, West Wing, and yes, National Lampoon's Animal House. But if you keep going backwards, he was the voice of Johnny Quest. So see, there's always something as a fan to look for the next thing.
Now we just got to get him in that black turtleneck.
Exactly. And I always loved the fact that his father was like the world's foremost authority on everything.
we still have fun coming to LA Comic Con. It's never gotten to the point where it's just like, it's going to be the same as last year. It's the same old thing. We're going to have the same old setup and whatever else. There's always something fresh. Like, I remember, I think I read this year, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, they're going to have their booth. They're going to be there a couple of times. Wow, Women of Wrestling have put on shows there a handful of times. So, there's all sorts of things. We got pro wrestling. We have, fan signings, photo ops, and you're very organized with the photo ops. Like some places, they've run out of ink. The printer didn't work. Someone gave the wrong email address for the digital copy not to arrive on time. All sorts of things. But yet you've kind of streamlined it almost in like a Henry Ford assembly line type deal to get things done accurately and well.
Well, I appreciate that you noticed that it works smoothly, because a number of us who work here in our prior life worked in the trade show business and did big business trade shows for, tens of thousands of people, 5,000-6,000 exhibitors. And that business on the business side, it's all about logistics. And so we try to bring that fiendish attention to detail and logistics to this, even as a fan convention, so that all of those things that could waste your time, make you stand in a line you don't need to be in, make you late to the panel you wanted to see, that none of that stuff happens, because it's just unfair to the fan if it does. You've made the decision to invest the time and the money to come, to bring your kids, to bring your friends, to have experiences. And if the logistics of the show takes away from that, that is 100% our fault. So we try very hard to make sure that all of that stuff is as seamless and intuitive as possible. Wayfinding and having an app that's really user friendly, all that kind of stuff, because it means you're going to get, as a fan, you'll get one more experience in. It's kind of like when you're at Disneyland and you had fun, but at the end of the day you realize you only got to ride 4 rides. You're like, dang, I wish I'd been able to do more. We want to make sure that you come, you have a wonderful time, but if you wanted to ride 12 rides, you had time to ride 12 rides. So that's the role of logistics in the industry business, in our business, is to just make it as simple and intuitive and easy as possible for the fans that are coming to do everything they want and have a good time.
But here's also with the photo ops, like we've been to places and we've seen them where it's rush, 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 don't make eye contact with the talent, grab your photo, leave, there's like no time for, like, you at least, yes, we know it's streamlined. Yes, we know there's a time constraint and we have to move quickly, but at least you give them a chance to feel like a human being and go, hi, how are you? I brought you a t-shirt or I brought you a gift. Thank you so much. We appreciate work. Snap the photo, quick handshake, and you're off. It's like 15 seconds instead of 3.
Well, I think the interesting thing is when you talk to the talent, part of why they do this is that they love the opportunity to interact with their fans. And some of those little 10-second interactions, you were in my favorite movie, and this is why, and I'm so happy to meet you. They're genuinely relevant to the talent. It's very satisfying for them to know that their work had that kind of an impact on people. So yeah, you got to move people through. There's a certain inventory that has to happen in order to make it make sense. But the people that run our photo area and autograph area are, again, themselves, they're fans. They understand that even if you're just standing there for 10 seconds or so, what that interaction is in those 10 seconds can make a big difference. And so we do try to make sure everybody has the opportunity to make that time that they spend with their heroes, if you will, as meaningful as possible.
Now, is there something from past years that had worked, but we just haven't revisited yet, that you'd like to bring back at some point for LA Comic Con?
Huh. That is an interesting question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I do know, like, when Stan came to the show, there was a certain accessibility and personableness to the experience fans had with sort of the Marvel universe. I would love to find a way to bring that back, because as I always say, the Avengers made the world safe for nerds. When these movies came out and suddenly there are millions of people seeing them and creating billions of dollars in business, it became clear to the entertainment industry that nerd culture is not this little narrow thing. It's actually it's part of all of us. And I think there was something about Stan's presence that grounded that. And so maybe something that did that would be wonderful. beyond that, I always just ask the fans, like what did we do something in 2014 that you loved and we stopped doing it? Let us know. I always tell people at the show, if you had a good time, tell your friends. If you had a problem, tell us, because that's the only way it's going to get fixed.
I'll tell you one thing I would love to see at some point is that LA Comic Con gets a big movie premiere, and that the red carpet is done on the main stage, so the fans can still be there, and see how, you have select press, obviously, doing the red carpet interviews as they walk across the stage and let everybody know. And then afterwards, in like the big hall, a giant screening for everybody.
I would love to do something like that. You're right. We have on occasion had casts come in just before a movie came out, and maybe we went over to LA Live to do the premiere afterwards. But I think you can take this segment of the interview, send it to the PR departments at all the studios, and just say, hey, remember, LA Comic Con's open for business for premieres, and they would love to do this with you. And we certainly have the best fans in the world to turn out and enjoy it. So just let you know, if they call, we'll do it.
And they will stick around to watch.
Absolutely. No, it's absolutely.
A lot of us will, I mean, as you said, we will stand in line. So we'll stand up for 3 hours to watch a movie on the main stage with a giant screen.
Well, and the other thing we have done is we go over and we work with the Regal guys over at LA Live, and we've had a premiere where we take 10 screens or 8 screens, and people walk over after the show closes and go see something. So again, that's the nice thing about both the LA Convention Center facility and being right in LA Live, that there's all sorts of things that we can do from an entertainment standpoint, that because the studios tend to think about San Diego when they think about stuff like that, rather than us or New York or pretty much anybody else. But it's good to remind them, one of the top 10 fan conventions in America is in your backyard studio, and we would be happy to work with you.
And only 25 minutes away from Burbank.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just reminding Disney and Warner Brothers that 25 minutes away is your local fan base.
Got to hop on the freeway, come right down to 110, you're there.
And remind them, they don't have to rent anybody a hotel room. If they bring in talent, they just send them home afterwards.
Well, I will say one of the unique attractions for talent of coming to our show is, you wake up at home, you have breakfast with your family, we send a car to pick you up, you come over, you do your panel, you talk to the fans, you take photographs, you sign autographs, and you're home for dinner. It's a lot easier than having to get on a plane and stay in some lovely hotel someplace and have lovely hotel food.
But for those coming in, I think there is a partner hotel, is there not?
We have, if you go on our website, we partner with all the local hotels. In fact, last year for the first time, we had the fans who came to the show accounted for over 3,000 hotel nights. So we are getting more people who come and either want to make a weekend of it. So even if they're somewhat local, they want to stay downtown, or they're coming in from out of town. And we're still, most fan conventions are 85 to 90% of the attendees come from within 50 miles. So they're effectively local. But yeah, certainly that we have great hotel partners for anybody who'd like to make a weekend of it.
And, we mentioned Disney and Warner Brothers, but Universal has, Universal Studios, again, is another 35 minutes away from LA Comic Con. Would there ever be hope of partnering with them, maybe discount tickets for people that come?
We actually do partner with them. They did a booth last year, and they're coming back this year and doing a bigger activation. I think that's one of the messages we try to get out to the local partners is, this is a great way to get in front of 125,000 of LA's biggest fans and remind them that you're here all year round. And I think that's how somebody like Dave & Buster's came in to be a partner of ours, and Universal's coming back, and we've worked with the Pantages and some of the other theaters, and it's just a great way. And with the fan scan system that's built into our app, it allows the fans to choose which of the vendors they would like to give their contact information to get on mailing lists, to get information about events and discounts and things like that. So we do try to be very user-friendly for all the other fan activities in LA, to let them know that we're a good way to get the word out.
And now that Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm have merged, we got to get them to hop on board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got to stop using that example of people coming to our show instead of going to Knott's Berry Farm for the 14th time. I apologize, Knott's Berry Farm. That's not meant to be a knock.
Well, I love Knott's Berry Farm. I'm not too far from Knott's Berry Farm in Disneyland. So, I'll make the 35, 40-mile drive into LA just for LA Comic Con. Hang out, we'll park. We have a good time. We, come home. Like you said, I get to be in my own bed that night. I don't have to worry about too much. as things continue to progress, next year is year 15. It's a milestone year.
Yep.
14 sounds exciting as it is. Are there certain things that we should keep an eye out for that might be hinted at, like some Easter eggs this year that we're like, oh, wait till year 15 and see what happens?
It's interesting that you asked that, because we were having this conversation this week that there were some really cool guests that almost came this year that it didn't work out, who've said, but we'd love to come next year. And it might be fun to tease that. It might be fun to tease that, a particular seminal figure in a series of movies would be here. So we'll have to give that some thought. Maybe we can hide some Easter eggs around that. I guess we probably have to sign their contracts first just to make sure we're not accidentally overpromising. But we do each year now, as we've gotten sort of a more robust guest list with actors that are a little more in demand. We do sometimes say, Elizabeth Olsen's somebody we've been talking to for 4 years, and it finally worked out this year. So we'll have to give that some thought. I like the idea.
Yeah.
Make it part of our digital scavenger hunt.
Yeah, see, that would be a lot of fun. Yeah. And what's also exciting is that it's a 3-day convention. It's not overkill in that, so there are a couple of film festivals that I cover, and a handful of them have decided to go 2 weeks. And I'm like, I can't spend 2 weeks in your town just covering all these movies. As much as I would love to, my schedule doesn't allow for a 2-week trip to your city to do so. And, with a 3-day festival like yours, yes, maybe we can come Friday night and we can come back Sunday, but Saturday we're busy, or we can come Friday, Saturday, whatever it is. At least we have a chance of one in the 3 days to come out and hang out and see what's going on.
Right. And it's interesting. We've seen a big uptick in the last 5 years, a move from 1-day tickets to 3-day tickets. And I think it's for exactly that reason. People that know, I don't know if I'm going to make it all 3 days, but I definitely want to come more than once. And I want the flexibility of when I do that, which is why we always try to price the 3-day tickets so that it's less than any 2 days bought individually together. But yeah, we've seen a big shift in the percentage of tickets that we sell that are weekend tickets versus 1-day tickets.
All right, so I'm going to put it like this. I'm a physical media guy. You had your Avengers #1 signed by Stan Lee. That is absolutely enormous, and I'm pretty sure it's framed and on the wall at this point. Yeah,
it's in a special place, yes.
Yeah, if not the family safe, I presume it's on the wall. We have the DVDs there, we have the comics there, graphic novels. Is there going to be a moment where, like, hey, this is LA, Capitol Records is right down the street. It looks like a stack of records in the design of the building. Are we going to have like a music section at some point and have concerts involved on the main stage at some point in the show?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I always say that we're a pop culture convention first and foremost, right? So we call ourselves LA Comic-Con. People kind of know what that means. But in this city, clearly music is a huge part of the pop culture environment in this city. And we have talked for years about how we do that. I've always thought Friday night's the ideal time to do it, to have some sort of a music concert on Friday night to give people a real reason to want to come either for the 3rd day or pick up Friday when maybe they're a Saturday or Sunday person. We did a couple years ago, we did something with one of the local radio stations, and they brought in a couple bands, and it was really fun. So my answer is yes, and not just in the con, but I'd also love to see, I think that's the kind of thing that could spill out over into LA Live, and we could have a band at the Nova. We could eventually someday have a band at what's now, I guess, the Peacock Theater. I think that music is such an integral part of the movie business and the video game business. And, as we've expanded into video games and anime, because they were sort of adjacent fan spaces to the core con space, as far as I'm concerned, music should be next.
Well, John Williams, Danny Elfman, look how much they've incorporated into our lives just with the soundtracks and scores of films that we grew up with and that people are raising their children to. So it has to be at some point.
Exactly. No, I completely agree.
Even if it's a tribute band or a cover band or something of that sort.
Right. And I guess in parties we've done in the past, we've done that sort of thing, but I would love to see it be more fundamental than that. I would love to see acts on stage performing. And again, I think having our main stage in the middle of the show floor, which means if we do that, 10 or 15,000 people could experience it and then just turn around and go back to what they were doing, as opposed to now you have to leave and go down the street and go stand in line and go whatever. I think it's that the seamless mashup of the different fandoms, rather than like having to just pick a lane and stick with it, that makes LA Comic-Con so much fun.
Right. Maybe like a 15-minute set every couple hours or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, let's take this route. What would you like to tell people that have gone to conventions but have yet pulled the trigger on coming to LA Comic-Con? And what would you like to tell fans that have never been to a convention that this is the reason to make it their first one?
Right. I'll do the second group first. I think if you are somebody who goes to the movies, somebody who enjoys finding new things on your streaming service, somebody who plays video games, I think you would be really pleasantly surprised to come to a convention like LA Comic-Con, which is so accessible and fan-based. And you would see those things that you love, and you would be able to be with other people that love the same things. And I think as fans, one of the reasons why live experiences are still so important to us is when you go to Coachella, it doesn't matter what stage you're in front of, the main stage or the smallest stage, you're standing there with people that appreciate the same things you do. And there's something as human beings, we crave community, we crave that interpersonal connection. And I think that's, you can get that at a convention like LA Comic-Con, because we have the space and the variety of content that I think you'd be surprised. Whatever's in your head about what you think a Comic-Con is, I think you'd find that it's a much more fan-centric, accessible experience than you maybe think it is. So definitely, if you're thinking about going to the next music festival, the next whatever, think about an LA Comic-Con experience as being the same kind of experience, and give it a try. For the people that go to, especially people who go to San Diego or go to WonderCon but haven't tried LA, I would say that the LA experience is more one that you, it's more about you specifically than it is about the studio announcement or the property cast that's coming in being the center of the PR, the publicity. I think if you haven't tried LA Comic-Con, or maybe you came 8 years ago and it was a little chaotic and hectic, because in the first couple of years of any show, it's a little chaotic and hectic. You should definitely come back and see what it looks like now, or try it add it to your con schedule and see what you think. Because I go to a lot of different cons. I go to up to Seattle, I go to New York, I go to Chicago, and each one, to me, when a con does a good job, it really reflects the flavor of its city and the fans that live in that city. And I think, so maybe you live down in Orange County, or you're more of a San Diego person, you've never made it up. Just know the door is always open. And I think what you'll find is that there's again, it's a very fan-centric, accessible experience, maybe more so than some places you've been. And I think once you come, you'll want to come back.
Chris, I really appreciate your time. Thank you as always. It's great to chat with you. I know we're going to run into each other sometime the weekend of the 26th. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
well,
let's
RC, I really appreciate you having me on. We always love talking to you guys in advance and trying to give you a sneak peek. And if I do have this sort of magical announcement we're going to make in the next few weeks, you'll be my first phone call.
Well, I appreciate it.
Meanwhile, we look forward to seeing you on site.
Absolutely. Let's remind everybody, September 26th through the 28th, to the 28th at the Los Angeles Convention Center, LA Comic-Con, ComicConLA.com, and on all socials. Chris, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. One of these days, we're actually going to have to get together for dinner and make it a social event instead of just a work one.
Absolutely. Well, other than 26th to 28th of September or the 2 weeks before, I'm open. Let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
We'll see you at the show. Thanks very much.